Alrighty. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today for the Master of Music and Media Scoring and Production Information session. We have tons of awesome content to cover, but before we start, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Omar Perez. I'm online enrollment all the graduate programs that we host, and more specifically, focus on assisting our amazing prospective music students with the admissions process. I hope that today's presentation will assist you in making the best decision for yourself. My host, Andrea Jimenez, will be coming on in just a few moments. So before we begin, there are some housekeeping items to go over. So the information session will be about 45 minutes in length. If for whatever reason you arrive late, have to take a break or leave early, no worries. It's being recorded and will be provided for you via email. Also to you, so if you have any specific questions for our panelists, please feel free to utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom. And of course, enrollment advisors will be able to assist you with that as well. So now I'm delighted to introduce my superb co-host, Andrea Jimenez. Take it away, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Omar. Appreciate you as always. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your Tuesday to join us. We are very excited to be here with you and tell you everything you need to know, hopefully, about the Media Scoring and Production program at the graduate level online here at the Frost School of Music, University of Miami. I am happily joined by so many of our MSP faculty and lecturers, and just a great crew we have for you here. We'll be going over, we'll be asking questions, and so feel free to engage in the Q&A box, as Omar said. So without further ado, I am going to start from who I see first. I see Carlos first, and then I will jump to you, Camilo, Simon, and then we will have, there we go, Ray, I see you here. Thank you for joining. And then I'll go over to you, Ray. Give us quick intros. What do you do here at essentially Frost, University of Miami? How long have you been with us, your education? Let's get into that. And then after, I'll ask you questions about curriculum and we'll go from there. Carlos, can I start with you?
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Andrea. And it's a privilege to get to speak to you today and be here as part of this. I'm the chairperson of the Media Scoring and Production program. And I've been with the Frost School of Music for about 15 years now, which is crazy. And I'm just privileged to be part of this conversation. And I'm glad to answer any questions you may have as we move along, but I'll move it along as well to save time. Thank you.
Go ahead, Camilo.
So I'm the graduate program director, and to follow up on Carlos's point, I've been here 10, which is also crazy to me. So time flies, but it seems like it flies when we're doing great stuff. I'm having a great time with all the music that we've been making here over the last 10 years, and hopefully more to come.
Simon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Villarreal. I am an instructor here in UM Online. I haven't been here for all of those years. I think like around 2 years, more or less. And I'm happy to be here, guys.
Thank you. Ray.
Hey, everybody. So I guess I'm the senior around here. I've been here as a professor since 2001. So that's, 24, almost 24 years because it was in the fall of 2001. But I am an alum of this school. And more importantly, I am a graduate of this program all the way back in 1982. We had the honor of starting the very first production-based program in the entire country, and it's a thrill that we now have this online. I currently serve as Associate Dean for Strategic Initiatives and Innovation, and I'm on the faculty of the Modern Artist Development and Entrepreneurship program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And so let's get started. Let's touch upon curriculum. Camilo, can we talk about what our media scoring and production program, essentially like what it entails as it involves our curriculum? We have one that, branches out into different areas. What are our core classes, all of that. Let's jump into that. And then Carlos, I'll jump over to you so we can discuss specifics about it.
Sure thing. So we break it down into two very related categories, which are media scoring and music production. So in each one of those, we have, maybe 5 or 6 classes that you can pick and choose from. And in those classes, they kind of cover specific techniques that kind of take you through the whole process, either in scoring a movie or a video game or anything like that, or in producing a song beginning to end. So, me, for example, I'm more on the music production and engineering side. And most of the work I do has been, recording, editing, producing, and mixing music. A lot of it has been for film, but more towards the music production side of it. So, for example, I'll talk about the music production courses that, that's where I mostly work with. And we have, for example, production 1, 2, and 3 are essentially guiding you through the entirety of the music production process. So we start with recording. We talk about, studio techniques, stereo, all the technical work that needs to get done to kind of be super comfortable in a studio. Then we talk about production, as in like, okay, let's make some decisions. What's the vision of the song? How do we serve the song? All that kind of stuff. Once all that stuff is ready to go, we talk about editing, all the creative and the technical side of editing. So like sampling, we talk a lot about, but we also talk about invisible editing. And if you're trying to like comp tracks together so that they all sound beautifully, like 10 or maybe 20, 50. I've heard stories of like 100 recordings all smashed into one. And that's part of the process as well. And then finally, mixing and mastering, which, like I've said before, it is arguably one of the hardest skills to master when it comes to music production and the slowest one. So we spend a lot of time just kind of working on that muscle. And that's kind of like the flow on the music production side. And then we have one more class, which is called Production 3, where we don't cover as much when it comes to like the techniques themselves, but managing a project. Because I've seen multiple not successful, very talented producers that struggle with managing a big project. Let's say you're, hired to work on a 12 album or 12 song album, and then you're over budget and didn't deliver on time. And it doesn't matter how good the music is, that's usually a big problem. And we cover that in Production 3. So those are like the big three categories that we cover in production. And I want to hand it over to Carlos and Simon to talk more about the media scoring side.
Thank you so much, Camilo. Yeah, on the media scoring side, there's sort of a few classes that are the ones that we're focused on that we've created, also specifically for the online portion. I'll have Simon speak to that. But media scoring 1 and media scoring 2 is sort of like each one is its own term. And media scoring 1 is, we call it film scoring foundations, where really I think there's a misperception as far as what music is. If you're a good musician, or even if you're a good composer, you may not be necessarily skilled in composing to story. And I think the most important aspect is storytelling in any medium that you're working with, whether it's television, film, video, understanding story. And so that first course really focuses on that, on making sure we're giving dialogue the privilege it deserves, and working as a support mechanism in our musical endeavors. And the second course of media scoring is more like the practical application, understanding or assuming that you have an understanding of story. It's actually just making it and producing the final product in a way that's acceptable and deliverable with live musicians. So that's sort of like the storytelling portion of what that is. We also have a video game scoring course that covers all the different formats under which you'd be writing, and different perceptions and approaches to doing that. And a virtual orchestration class that kind of falls under that, which is understanding how to how to emulate the orchestra using libraries and music libraries that will help an aural illusion take place for the audience to believe that the instruments that are playing are real. And maybe Simon, you could speak a little bit to how the experience is for the online student that is taking the film scoring foundations, for example. And thank you.
Yes, of course. So I will say, adding to what Carlos said, that these courses online are fast paced. They are 7-week classes, just like the rest of the online program. And they are designed to give the students like a strong foundation in media scoring. So every week we move very quickly through new concepts. We combine video lessons, hands-on assignments, live Zoom office hours as well. And I will say that the focus of these classes isn't just on learning theory, it's about actually applying what you learn through real world projects. So in our classes, we analyze different film scores, we analyze music, we discuss how the music interacts with the storytelling as well. We, of course, cover like music technology, which is a huge part of our program. And which music technology, I mean like digital audio workstations, how to work inside your DAW. Like we are focused heavily on the technical side in the beginning of this course. Towards the end, we like everything in the technical side is already covered. And for the second course that we are having, that is media scoring extensions, I will say that the technology side is already full cover, so we can focus on adding more creative and professional steps to this process. And one thing that I love about this program is how, for me, it's like very personalized, because the class sizes are small, so we get to work like closely with each student. We are constantly checking assignments. We are making sure that the students are understanding the material and answering questions. And I will say that basically this is what we have for the media scoring side.
I would ask you if you don't mind adding one more thing, Simon, because you've helped me kind of curate the requests we make, but talk a little bit about a relationship with Netflix, which makes it a very unique experience for the students.
Of course, this is a super important part. I say that is the part that I love the most in our classes, is that we have a partnership with Netflix. So all the assets that we are receiving are from Netflix scenes. There are different clips. We have action scenes, we have drama scenes from different shows. For example, we have a One Piece, we have scenes from Stranger Things as well, from a Heart of Stone as well. So I will say that what I really love about this is that we have like the real experience of working a real scenario. So we have high quality videos, separate dialogue tracks, separate sound effects tracks, and so on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. You're doing my job for me. This is fantastic. So Ray, I want to ask you, because you have one of our, in the MSP program, you teach one of the core classes, and that entrepreneurship skill that we're really trying to ensure our students leave here, especially at the graduate level. Talk about that course, talk about how it enmeshes with the final project, and then Camilo, Carlos, I'll jump into final project, and then we'll get to Q&A, because it looks like we have a question that's actually a very good one. Go ahead, Ray.
Okay, so yes, I developed the entrepreneurship for musicians course. That was honestly the very first course I ever developed when I started teaching at the Frost School of Music, and that was the class that I didn't have when I was in this program all the way back in the early '80s. And when I was going through the process of being hired at the university back in 2001, they asked, well, what class would you bring? I said, well, that's simple. It's the one I never had. That's because it's important to know that for me, teaching is my second career. For 23 years, I was fully 100% self-employed as a producer in this business. I still have my production company. I also was a musical director, did a lot of touring, the things that every professional musician does that has a full-time career in this business. So that course was developed not just around my experiences, but the experiences of plenty of others that I have known and continue to know in this business. So it's core to this program, as it is, of course, to the MAID program on campus. But it's very much about thinking of how to leverage your skill sets, not just in, of course, it's important to hustle gigs, and you need to find the next job to keep your cash flow going and live to fight another day. But more importantly, how to think about your career holistically so that you can start building equity in your life and in your career through what you do, because anybody involved in this program is a creator. If you're a creator, that means you're able to build equity. You just have to know how to do it and how to think about it. So this course focuses a lot on those different elements. And by the way, it's important to know that everybody on this call, literally, that's involved in this program is fully involved in the business as well. So that's really important.
Thank you for that, Ray, because that's one of my questions coming up in terms of the industry involvement that all of you have, which is just so so important, at least I believe in from what our current online students have told us, that you have that that experience on the other side and you bring it over here so that we're ensuring that we're teaching our students what's really going on in the industry. So I appreciate that. So first question we have in the Q&A, it's how is the workload structured throughout the Masters in Media Scoring and Production program? Specifically, how much work is typically assigned between final projects? I ask because I felt in my bachelor's program, it lacked sufficient day-to-day challenges, and I'm eager to understand how this program integrates daily tasks into its curriculum. I mean, all of our courses is like, we pretty much are structured in the same way and we require a lot, but it's so that you do so that you don't feel that, so that you don't feel that you're lacking any kind of challenges in our program. Camilo, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can take this one. I have a good example for this one. So, for example, we have our class production one, right? So, in that class, we cover, setting yourself up, having your own studio, make sure you're able to record. And those assignments are based on like what can you do in the space that you have currently. Then, as we go, we start jumping into like editing, and we have 3 or 4 sessions that were pre recorded and we sent you. And we give you sessions that you need to comp and put together. You need to edit, you need to apply all of the materials that you covered in the first 4 modules. And those assignments will be picked up and scrutinized by whoever is the instructor of that course. And they're going to tell you there's a click here, there's noticeable tuning here issues, there's timing issues here. And then you're going to do all that back and forth. And those are the very day-to-day challenges that you face when it comes to like audio editing and production and all that kind of stuff. And as we get to the end of the module, or I should say the course, you're going to have a recording session with Frost, on campus ensembles. And what we do there is you give them your lead sheets or your music or your MP3s, and then you take those home. And hopefully, with the assignments that you got, the practice sessions that you got, getting this big final project in shouldn't feel like new or different work. It should feel like you are applying what you have learned so far. Here's my song that I wrote. I made the demos. I sent to remote recording. I got my remote recording back with multiple takes on each instrument, and I can comp them all together to sound like one cohesive take. That's literally the entire process. That's what we cover in that class. And the end of that class marks the beginning of the next one, so to speak, because the final assignment is submit fully edited, ready to go stems or tracks from the session that you recorded. And then, that's the submission. And from then on out, the next class will cover mixing. And then that's when we start talking about all the things that come with that. So each class is very, very tailored into whatever it is trying to teach you. And it's usually a couple of specific skill sets. For example, production one is recording and editing, or production and editing. And we cover that a lot in every single assignment. And then again, just at a bigger scope in the final. I hope that answers the question.
So it's built upon,
Mhm.
it essentially is what we do. And we do this across all our classes. Simon, I know you touched upon that a bit in your intro in terms of media scoring. Can you speak a little to that? And also I want to touch upon the feedback that's like just a huge element in our MSP program. Students feedback with each other. You're getting what you would do in the real industry. So can we touch upon that as well, Simon? Just talk about the building, final project, and what we're doing on those weeks to build to that final project.
Yes, of course. I have mentioned before that this is like a hands-on learning experience. So we have video lessons, but we always every week have a different assignment. For example, in the case of the media scoring foundations, the first assignment that we have is scoring an abstract cue. So we have a scene. We learn how to put different spots in the session. Then we write in piano. Then at the end, we have a PDF score that we need to submit along with the scene with the music and the WAV file as well. For the second project that we have, that we start in week 3, we have a cue that is about writing to the temp. So we are writing melodies. In that case, we are using strings. And similarly, towards the end, we need to submit, that is in week 4, we need to submit the cue, like the scene with the music. We need to submit as well the WAV file of only the music and a PDF score this time with the strings, and if we have piano or whatever instrumentation that we have. And Towards the end, we have an action cue. So we are building, like you mentioned, like a pawn. First, we start one instrument that is piano, then we have strings, then we have an action cue that we can have all the instruments that we want. So I will say that this is a progressive class. And once we get to the second course, that is media scoring extensions, we start to think out of the box, like having the music once the cue is approved, but with real musicians. So we're going to create our music, our scores to be recorded in a real recording studio. So I guess that I hope that this is answering your questions.
Yes, thank you, Simon. Thank you for that. Yeah, so it's never a dull moment. Each week you're doing something, you're involved in something, and you're building your skill set with each course that you're being exposed to. Thank you for the question again. We have another question.
Oh, and I forgot to mention something that you said about the discussion board.
Oh, so, feedback. Yes, please.
Yeah. You were talking about the feedback. So I want to say that we have as well a discussion board in our class. So every week we are posting the videos that we are doing. So all the students that we have are watching what you are doing. You are writing feedback to them as well. You are receiving feedback. And I think this is the best way we can learn.
So the peer-to-peer interaction in terms of like, we're big on that. Camilo, can you, and Carlos, if you want to speak to that a bit, just because I know we do the same thing on campus. So I also want to show that like what we do on campus, we do online, and our on-campus folks, we're actively involved as a community together. So I want to ensure that everyone understands that we are very mindful of ensuring our school.
It's very important. I think peer feedback is probably more important than faculty feedback, because we spend all this time talking about what we know, but it's just at the end of the day an opinion. My opinion is educated, if you will, because I have experience, but I may not be right. And every time, and I found this in the real world, I guess you could say, that as much as I know when I am on a new project, it doesn't matter. It's we're in a service industry, so we have to learn to be able to pivot and take notes and revise. We're a business of revision and perfection towards someone else's story that you're working for. And one of the best things to get is feedback from your own peers as well, because I may say something, but if 4 other peers say the same thing in their notes, then you may want to start paying attention to what that comment is about. They're coming around the same thing. You're seeing as opposed to just what I said or what Simon says or what Camilo's. It's like much more edifying when you start seeing a trend in comments and they come from your peers. And everyone has something to contribute. There's no better or higher or lower voice. Everyone has something to contribute to this iterative process of improvement that we're all going through, even at this old age that I have. So anyway.
Just to add to that, a little note. Everybody comes in, especially because it's not like a super focused thing. It's not specifically only music production or media scoring. The people that come here have a fairly broad set of skills. And that makes it all the better, in my opinion, because you end up learning so much from so many different people. And that network that you build with all of your colleagues as you're doing the program together, you will learn at least. I will see it success as a success if you learn more from each other than from the classes and the faculty themselves. Because there is so much happening when you work together and build your teams and maybe collaborate on, whatever projects that you have. All of those things are very possible, and we encourage them. The more that people work together, the better they get, not only being part of a team, but being able to handle feedback, even if they are very against the feedback, which can sometimes happen.
Thank you for that, Camilo. Yeah, well, I mean, practicing community as a verb for us across Frost Online as a program, that's us. In MSP, I mean, we highlight that and then some. Ray, did you have any comment about that? Again, because you do so many.
I mean, and I'm looking at, there's some more questions in the Q&A.
Yes.
Some very good ones there. But I don't think there's any danger of not having enough work in this class. In fact, what I do love about the program online, having the experience of being in the business for so long, and my colleagues here can attest to this. In some ways, I mean, on campus is great, but it's artificially long. You don't have that kind of time in the real world. Our online program is far closer to what happens in the real world, where you're on tight deadlines and you just have to do this. So it's very good practice for building that mindset of, okay, I just got to get this done, and how are we going to get this done? Within the frame of time. Also, and I like what Carlos said. This is at the end of the day, a service business, and a client, particularly your client, is going to say, I don't like it, change it. Oh yeah, and by the way, I need it 3 hours from now. Uh, so that's just important, just as a general thing. But I also really like the flexibility of how this program has been put together. Honestly, it goes back to the beginnings. When I was in the program, it was actually called Studio Writing and Production, and basically we just changed the name to Media Scoring and Production. We had another name change in the middle there, but it's still the same idea, because these worlds are interconnected. And I know a lot of folks that flow between the two, some that stay more in one direction, more in the other, but there's plenty that flow in between the two. So there was a question regarding that and what scheduling looks like for that. So, I mean, you all can talk about that, but this is one of the key features of this program, is the fact that it is flexible and you're able to tailor it more to your direct interests.
Thank you for that, Ray. And I'm going to jump straight into that question you were just prefacing. So if combining the production and scoring classes, what does scheduling look like to a student? Okay, so it looks like they just want to know about the actual structure of the overall program and when they schedule when classes they take. It's 2 classes a semester. That's the way it goes. But you take 1 class in 1 session, the first 7-week session, and then you take another class in the second 7-week session. And the entire semester goes 15 weeks. So 7 weeks first, 7 weeks second, you're doing 1 class each session. Okay. You're never doing more than that. It's graduate level. It's very rigorous. So that's typically the structure. Camilo, Carlos, any input on that in terms of the scheduling?
I mean, that feels accurate. The one thing I will say, you'll normally see people, alternating. They'll go like from a production course to a media scoring course, maybe back and forth a little bit. And because you do have 2 a semester, it's usually like one-on-one, and that's usually how they're scheduled. But other than that, it's, what makes sense to you. At the end of the day, is your program, and we want it to feel as close to what you want it to be as possible.
Thank you for that, Camilo. And if ever we're only offering a certain amount of classes within that semester, you will be made aware well in advance. We have our incredible student success advocate advisor. She is, I mean, just she understands this thing back and front, and essentially you get her as ongoing support while you also have us here. You have Camilo, you have Carlos, you have our faculty that if you want to know, hey, what may be going on here? What class should I do next? We're here to support you all from start to finish, just as if you were on campus. So we can't be more clear than that. Another question is there an audition for the application process? What are the prerequisites for this degree? So that's portfolio. Does anybody want to take that, just so that everyone, and also what are we looking for in someone that's going to be pursuing our degree at the graduate level as it pertains to their prerequisite question, which is a bachelor's degree, but does anybody want to tackle that one?
So I'll talk a little bit about the application process. So there is no live audition in that sense. You're not performing an instrument in front of anybody like that. You are instead submitting a portfolio, which is a collection of your best work to date, and hopefully to date, right? So what we want you to do is to submit, let's say you are a media composer. We would like you to submit clips that you have scored to picture, and using your own samples or any recordings that you may have done. We want it to be your own work as much as possible. And what we want you to do is, for example, if it's film, prioritize work that you have done for other people. So let's say if you scored a short, somebody hired you to score a short, we would love to see that. But if you also, made recordings or scores for like things that you downloaded off the internet, or maybe some scoring competitions that pop up from time to time, we want to see those too. We want to see your music to picture, right? On the other side of thing, for music production, we want to see your mixes, your productions and your production mixes, right? If you have released music, like maybe Spotify or anything like that, we want to see that with the credits as well. That's great to know. And we also want to hear your work specifically. Did you write the song? Did you produce the beat? Did you record the vocals? Did you write the horn parts? Like, what did you do? So what we usually ask for people to do is to submit the piece of work, like the music, and then a document explaining what they've done, what they did, what they were involved in, because maybe they were the producer, but somebody else mixed it. We want to see that written in your notes and all that stuff, that we just kind of look at everything. Some people are one or the other. You don't have to be one or the other. You can be a combination of both. And what you submit within the 5 things that you have can be, 2 productions that you did and maybe 3 film scores, or the other way around. It can be a combination of both. You can just let us know what you think your strong suit is and what you did on each one of the projects. That's what we want to know. Basically, what you can do.
Awesome. Thank you
I,
for that, Camilo.
I hope that covers anything. Did I miss anything?
No, yeah. And then essentially like what are prerequisites, but a bachelor's degree, that's what we're looking for. Usually that's the norm as of now. 3.0 GPA minimum at that level. And does anybody else want to speak to just because we get a diverse amount of students that come and apply for our graduate program, both on campus and online. So anybody have any more specifics in terms of what our target student audience, if you will, when they're applying to the graduate degree? I know we really don't, it's so many different kinds of people that come to us. So I don't want to limit.
Yeah, I think Camilo spoke to that, but also just to explain your process and for the examples or samples that you submit, explain your process for each. I think you already said that though, Camilo, right? So it's just really important for us to, it's important for you to be able to speak to the thing you make. And one sign of maturity that happens in graduate students that's not so obvious in undergraduates is how did you make that? Well, I don't know. I was just, it just came to me. By the time you're thinking graduate studies and you're doing professional work, there's no room for that. It usually has to be very, very specific as to the process and how you make it, and being able to advocate for your own work in a manner that's clear and communicative. Because one of the biggest skill sets you have to develop is how to communicate it's a collaborative process with folks, with filmmakers or video game developers or whoever it is. You have to be able to communicate with them, and that's kind of the reason why we're looking for that specifically. Anyway.
On that note, Carlos, I have seen people and I have seen scores get turned down because the person that wrote it could not defend it. And it was beautiful music. So it doesn't even come down to the music sometimes. It's just that you didn't convince them of it. So I think that's a good element of like, okay, they heard it, they're sitting down with you. How do you show them that it's great? Not everybody will necessarily see that it's great. And sometimes you can just kind of do a little bit of a nudge.
Yep.
Thank you for that. We do have another question. Beyond the technical side of film scoring, how does the program help composers develop their own musical voice? How do you encourage students to balance industry expectations with artistic individuality? I would also ask this question to anybody out there who loves like music production. So Camila, I'm gonna come to you after. Carlos, Simon, do you want to speak to this question? How do we encourage students to balance industry expectations with artistic individuality?
Simone, if you don't mind me taking a little bit of this one, only because I think the problem I had when I was a up and coming composer, and still feel like I'm up and coming because anyways, the older you get, the less you know. But the truth is, like, I feel like I was very obsessed with having a voice. I kept hearing, you have to have your voice. You have to find your voice and what makes you different from everybody else. And the truth is, as I've gotten older, I realized it's just work makes you different than anybody else. Just by doing. The simplest example is think about writing your name. And when you write your name, it's your handwriting. And you put your name here. And if I were to write Carlos Rivera, it kind of will look like I wrote it. But if I was to be given a little sheet of paper this big, I'll write Carlos Rivera, like very, very small. It'll still look like I wrote it. And if they gave me a billboard and a bucket of paint to paint my name, it would still look like I wrote it. And so all of our experiences lead to the music we write. Whenever you have one project and 8 students taking it on, you're going to hear 8 different voices. So the truth is, like, by doing work, your voice emerges, maybe you could say, but I don't think it's something to be afraid of. I think by understanding how to write in a certain style and being able to chameleon like yourself to different styles of music. By doing that, you become more adept at it. We're here to learn. Artistry is, it's a longer conversation, but I'll keep it short. I feel like artistry is something that is born when all of the elements come together, not just what you're able to do. What you're able to do when it combines with a fantastic cinematographer, with fantastic acting, with fantastic sound, and then you come together and then you have moments that feel like art. But it's, again, an entertainment industry. You're writing music for people to consume. You're not writing music for you only, because then that's great. But I think you have to have that. And maybe it's a weird answer, but I hope you can wrestle with that and think about what the purpose of what we do is. It's the music industry, not the music art. And so, thanks.
Awesome. Camilo, did you have anything to add to that, or Simon?
Yeah, I have a couple of notes. So one thing that does happen, and it has happened to me, I play guitar, and I'm gonna say like 90% of the songs I produced have my guitar on them. And doesn't matter how wide your vocabulary is on an instrument, it doesn't matter. You still have the things that you do on that instrument that sound like you, and you don't even know it. And one of the things that I find super interesting is that you can't really surprise yourself. Like I have the way I play, and I can't be like, oh wow, that was amazing. Like, no, nobody can do that because you know you're gonna play, right? So then I'm there doing like the same lick I've done a million times before. And then some people are like, oh wow, that's amazing. I never heard that before. I'm like, I guess this is my style. This is my voice. Those three licks that I do over and over. So it's basically like when you do more work, you kind of find these solutions that kind of fit in a way that makes sense only to your brain. And that kind of becomes your voice, like the way you do things naturally, kind of like Carlos was saying, where like writing your name, you're not thinking about like the C and the A and the R. You're just thinking broad strokes, and the way it comes out, those tiny little strokes that you do, that's your voice. So the more you do, the more it happens, and you're going to find that there's always a style. You might not know it, but there's a style. It's there. So if you're looking for bravery and a heart, it was there all along. You just got to dig it out.
And I think this program does that in the best way we can, in that it's just constantly driven on the feedback. You guys are interacting with our faculty all the time. I mean, it just doesn't stop. So there's ongoing learning, I would say. Simon, anything to add? Just because you have a lot to offer, and you were a graduate as well.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna mention that in my perspective, from a graduate from this program, I never felt like like being forced to write in a specific genre or in a specific style or anything like that. Even I took all the production classes, even though if I am more focused in the film scoring side, I wrote instrumental music all the time in my production classes. I never felt forced to write it in like any specific style. So I think you're not gonna like feel the pressure of writing, I don't know, contemporary music in this program. Nothing like that.
Thank you for that,
No,
Simon.
Simon, you're going to write Baroque chorales and you're going to like it.
Thank you, Omar. I'm coming to you very soon. So we're going to wrap up here. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. Anything else you have, you're welcome to reach out to us, frostonline@miami.edu, emails, and we'll give you all the other emails as well. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here. This is our program. But I do want to ask one last question. So we talked about community a bit, Carlos and Simon, and Ray as well, please. And I mean, if we want to bring up, we have Friday forums now, and they're officially hybrid. That's something that we launched not too long ago. So that means our online students are joining us on campus every Friday. What is it, 1:25 p.m.? Like we're building and we're bridging on campus and online. So you all are with us no matter what. Do we want to speak a little bit about those initiatives that we're doing to ensure that everyone knows that you're online, but you're online and you're here with us, and we are with you every step of the way? Camilo.
Sure thing. So right now we have two big things that are, I think, like the foundation of this, right? We have the forums that happen every Friday at 1:25 p.m. And those are not required, but I always tell people, show up, meet the people that are there, listen to their stories, because you'll have students sharing, oh, I did this production, and this is what I did on it, or stuff like that. So you can learn from other people, and then you can meet people that you can also work with. Most people that end up in the program, they usually walk out with like close friends from the program and people that they're usually collaborating with often. So just kind of building that network of, oh, I am great at recording, but I'm terrible at mixing, and my friend over here is phenomenal mixer. Let's figure this out, shall we? So we got have that bridge, and I think it's a huge, huge part of it of learn from each other more than you learn from us. And then the other one of that, which kind of pushes into that direction as well, is we have a Blackboard community, which is kind of like a private group where all of the students, both on campus and online, can freely talk, share, links or whatever things they found, maybe scores, or, this YouTube video that has this one thing about, whatever, right? Where they can help each other talk, have like a sort of open forum discussion. I'm like, hey, I'm struggling with this thing. How would you fix this thing? And it's in the context of MSP. So usually what you're running into, somebody else has already run into. So you'll very likely find answers there. And of course, if you do find answers, pay it forward when you find somebody asking a question, help them out. And that's, I think, part of like the foundation of what we consider the community. Everybody's just kind of helping each other out on the way we go. And it's the whole, high tide raises all ships approach. We want everybody to feel that, there is plenty of work and learning and things to do. And everybody getting better at everything we do here is good for literally everyone.
Amazing. Carlos, anything to add? Did Camilo do it?
That was awesome. I mean, it was awesome. It was great. Of course, we're all here. We're all trying to we're all learning, all of us in this journey. And what a great opportunity to get to share with like-minded people what you're trying to figure out. So thank you, Camilo, for saying that.
Okay, and then we're ending here. Ray, any final thoughts? Carlos, Camilo, Simon, I'm gonna just final thoughts. Why us?
Why us? Well, you're looking at them right here. It's an honor to get to work with these folks. I had directly hired Carlos, and I guess indirectly hired you, Camilo, and then Simon. You were a student, and then so it's awesome to see people grow. And I mean, Carlos, I remember when you had your first film, and we all went to the theater together to watch it.
That's right. That's right. Because it was probably going to be my last. That's what I thought at the time.
Well,
like,
yeah,
let's
it's
enjoy
four
it
Emmy
while
Awards,
it's happening.
4 Emmy Awards later, and God knows what else is coming down the pike. Here we are. So this is a journey, but it is a community. I will say this is very, very important. The Frost School of Music has a long history and a legacy of greatness. Nobody takes this lightly. Everybody takes what we do very seriously. So, you want to be part of this group, part of this family, part of this environment, this is the place to be. Immediately you become part of who we are. And like I said, this program really goes back on campus back to the late 70s, early 80s. So that's a long, long time. And a lot of very renowned people have come out of this. So I think that's just part of, the consideration looking at what we do.
Thank you, Ray. Simon, final thoughts?
Well, I think that Ray said everything, and Camilo as well. I will add that if you are looking for a program that gives you like the hands-on learning and the real experience and this strong sense of the creative community, like this is the place.
Love it. Thank you all. We appreciate you so, so much. Omar, I'm passing it over to you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, everybody, for being here again.
All right. So you'll see the different types of resources that we have for students. Different ways to engage, not path. You'll see the Topple Career Center. We have the Graduate Student Association as well, a lot of other resources. So if we don't have an answer for you, we for sure can find a spot where we can get that answer for you. And in regards to the application process, we did, of course, cover some of the elements, most importantly, the portfolio. With your bachelor's transcripts, we can use your unofficial transcripts, so don't feel the need to send an official one. The official one is perfectly fine. Later on, we would need the official 2 letters of recommendation, the resume. If you're interested in financial aid, we always encourage them. That way you can get the ball moving forward fast on that. You have a personal statement as well as then, of course, the submission of your academic profile. And working with the enrollment advisors, of course, we provide all the different details in terms of what it is that we're looking for in your resume, personal statement, etc. So, of course, don't hesitate to reach out. And with the early admissions deadline coming on Monday, March 10th, we always encourage students to, try to get everything as soon as you can to be able to take advantage of the deposit waiver that we're able to provide for students. And also, of course, there is an additional incentive as well, a 50% tuition waiver. Again, early admissions deadline, March 10, spots are limited, so we always encourage you to move forward with it. And of course, any questions you might have, don't hesitate to reach out. We're super excited to answer any questions you might have. Of course, you'll see the little QR code on the bottom if you want to get the process started right away. Before we let you go, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our exceptional panelists today. So much great information for everyone. And for the rest of you out there, we hope to see you soon as a future Kane. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.